Hi everyone, how's it going? I hope you guys are well. I'm doing okay at the moment. I've just been doing a lot of sleeping and everything. I have depression as usual, but emotionally, I'm not actually feeling that sad. It's not been as bad in recent days as it was. But then again, that's usually a common thing with my periods anyway. So, um, yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing all right. Um, to give you guys an update on my situation, I've had a lot of attacks on my face. I don't know if you can tell, but I've had a lot more marks and a lot more cuts showing up. That's because the electronic weapons are being fired on my face now. It's a common thing with a lot of TIs, like we get a lot of attacks on our face. Um, Mine isn't as bad because I do keep my skin a certain way, so like it could be a lot worse than it is, but it's still pretty bad. I mean, you can see all the marks on my forehead, all the marks here, like, and a lot of people could blame things like this on insect bites, but they're not insect bites. If they form a triangle, especially if the wounds form a triangle, that's coming directly from the weapons, because the way the weapons work, once again, they have 3 points. As they fire, those 3 points can either contract or open up on the weapon. So it's these 3 points right here that are always working when it comes to firing weapons on your face. So yeah, these marks that I've got right here, they're not organic, they're not natural. And the thing is, I always get the worst face irritation, or the worst, face thing when I'm actually in the shower, because I like my showers hot. And you have to remember that the electronic weapons are heat seeking. So if the rest of my environment is relatively cold, but I'm hot because I've got the shower, just below burning, then it makes it easier for the weaponry to find me. So I always get like the worst attacks when I'm in the shower. Another reason why I don't sleep in that other room is because I used to get the worst electronic attacks from my bedroom and from the shower. So that's why I've got these marks right here. I get attacked in here, but it's nowhere near as bad. Nowhere near. Okay, and the irony is, I only moved into the front room. I only moved everything into the living room so that I could have easier access to the front door should those using the electronic weapons decide to debilitate me again. That's the only reason I moved in here. And yet, ironically, I haven't had attacks as bad since I've moved in here. And I believe there's a reason for that. Once again, my living room is south facing. If you live in a south facing environment, it's likely to not be as bad as in a north facing environment because of the satellites. So that's an update on myself. I've had weapons fired on my face and on my organs. It was particularly bad on Tuesday because I've been looking up blood clots, and I know that both AI and the human component of my gang stalking have been aware of what I've been looking up. So they've been mimicking the symptoms of everything that I feared my air embolism and my blood clots would turn into. Speaking of which, they appear to have dissolved at the moment. I say appear. I'm not saying that they have. It's early days yet. I don't actually know what's going on. I'm not going to know until I get a scan. So, and it's like $2,000 to pay for a scan, to pay for a CT scan. It's $2,000 to pay for that. So yeah, it's I won't know for sure until I get a CT scan full body. But getting it done privately is like over $2,000, and even then you need your GP to sign off on it or sign the release off on it. So yeah, let's see what happens with that. But as it stands, it doesn't seem to be too bad. But I'm keeping my eye on it. I'm not taking anything for granted right now. So that's that when it comes to my physical health and the electronic weapons being fired on my face. I've already explained that in my last video. I explained how the electronics were used for psychological warfare to try to get me worried enough to hospitalize myself. We've already covered that. Another thing that I want to tell you guys about is that there is an obvious campaign to try to get me removed from the flat. Well, we can see what happened with the last time somebody tried to do that. So I'm not really worried. Okay, I'm not too worried because I made up my mind, like, whatever situation I end up in, I'ma run that shit. I said that and I meant it. Okay, so I'm not worried about anything. I'm not worried about anybody trying to remove me out of anywhere. I'm not worried about being moved into a new place, or like, again, this ain't my first rodeo. And with every cycle, I've been moving up the career ladder anyway. I shouldn't say that, but yeah. So I'm not worried. I'm really not worried. But I think that the idea was to get some stuff of me recorded so that I could be removed from the property. I think the only recording they were actually able to get was me playing something loud. I can't remember what time I was playing it loud, but I think the neighbors were filming one occasion and trying to make out like I was literally disturbing their children, which I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck about. It's not that I don't care whether they sleep or not. Like, why do I want to disturb their sleep? I just don't want to do that. I don't even want to talk about them because I don't like those people. Like, they go out of their way to say the most disgusting things they can say about me. Not even just because of my color, but because they can't take being humiliated by their own actions. I don't like those people. So why would I want to talk about them, let alone disturb their sleep? I like my life to be as positive as I can. I'm literally being tortured to death. There's already enough negativity here. But as it stands, there's a campaign to try to get me out the flat because, as far as these perps concerned, perps always make the same mistake. They always think that if they get me from living close to them, then it's out of sight and out of mind, and the shit don't work like that. So let them do their worst. It's as simple as that. Ask my previous neighbors whether it's out of sight and out of mind. It's never going to be out of sight and out of mind, and especially with the way this country's going. Speaking of which, before I move on to the main reason I made this video, things are getting worse in Britain. The economic conditions are worsening. And I'm listening to people talk about worsening racism, worsening poverty. And the whole time I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, you do realize that the gentrification of certain communities was facilitated by gang stalking, right? You do realize that the impoverishment of people, the displacement of people was facilitated by gang stalking, right? I'm one of the classic examples of how displacement is actively making a community poorer and fucking up a community. So a lot of these people complaining about how poor people are living and how this, that, a lot of it is our own fault. Or I can't say our because I didn't have a hand in this shit. A lot of it is the fault of the people who were either part of the gang stalking or who chose to remain blind to it. It's your fault and your responsibility. I'm sorry. And I shouldn't assign blame, but it's like, how could you not know that it was not going to lead to a good place? How could you not know? But I'm going to get into that during the main part of the video because that's part of the psychology that I want to get into. Now, speaking of which, the main reason I made this video was to revisit a series I made on gang stalking psychology. If you check my gang stalking psychology playlist on YouTube, you will see 3 videos that I made, a 3-parter series called Identify, Nullify, and Villify, right? And this was what it was in a nutshell. You identify the target by just by knowing everything about them. You nullify the target by finding out what they have the most emotional attachment to and either mimicking those things or weaponizing those things. And then you vilify that by vilifying the reaction to the weaponization and the manipulation. So those are three things. So the vilification is slander, libel, all that stuff, right? And I decided that I wanted to update some of what I've learned, the identify, nullify, and vilify thing that I wanted to talk about. So I wanted to clarify that because I felt like it was really important to narrow certain aspects of psychological warfare down. Now, if you go throughout my videos, I've talked about a lot of this before, but I wanted to get it into one video because it was really important to understand in order for you to guard yourself against it as a TI. All right. Now, I'm going to get into the identification, which is obvious, right? You're identifying the target, who they are. It's about the what. When you think about identifying the target, you say, for example, me, Fabienne Deacon, 38 years old, from born in London, African Caribbean female or British female of African Caribbean descent. So identification is the what, and also job description goes into that too. So identification is the what a person is, and each part of what, not who, what a person is has its own structure around it that you also have to identify. I'm cisgendered, okay, which means that I am the same gender. Basically, I am the same gender that I always was when I came into this world. When my mother gave birth to me, I was always female, right? I was always a woman. So I'm cisgendered, which means I identify as a woman, and I have the corresponding body parts. I have the corresponding sex to go along with it. So I'm cisgendered. I'm a cisgendered woman. Being a cisgendered woman has its own culture. I'm also Black or of Afro-Caribbean descent. That has its own structure. And then we've got British, second generation, that has its own structure. So every single piece of what you are, not who you are, what you are has its own culture and has its own contribution as to what makes you an effective target to be chosen by this case. Now, you're not always picked as a lab rat. Sometimes you're picked up as a sacrificial lamb to someone in your family that wants to achieve a certain amount of success. Sometimes that can be the case. Other times it can be that you pissed off the wrong person. But identifying what you are is a crucial part of this gang stalking. It's a crucial part because without that, they don't know how to specifically tailor the torture to you. It's very, very important that they know how. Okay? So, identification is what you are. Okay? Now, the second part, nullification. This has to be probably the most important part of what I'm talking about tonight. The nullification thing it's complicated and it's simple at the same time. Let me explain. Nullification is essentially identifying who you are, what your personality traits are, what you respond to emotionally, what your desires are, what your fears are. All of these things are part of the nullification process, because once they know who you are, your enemies can start off by mirroring what you best respond to. And quite often, it doesn't matter who you are. What people respond best to is you being seen in a favorable light. That's why love bombing exists. It's in you being seen as a favorable light. And the thing that is really important to remember is that when you are paid compliments, when you're paid compliments, when you're love bombed, you are done. It's done so in accordance with what you are rather than who you are. That's how the narcissists play it. When they appeal to the better part of your nature, they're attaching the what rather than the who. They're validating your existence as what you are. That's the important part of love bombing. These people don't know jack shit about you, but they're validating your experiences as a mature woman. They're validating your experiences as a black woman. They're validating your experiences. Or conversely, they could be completely in the opposite direction, hoping to brainwash you through having you fight your position at every opportunity. So that's another way they can play it. It's either they love bomb the crap out of you, or there's a contrarian element to everything that you are on a base level. It's got nothing to do with who you are at this point. That's not what the nullification process is. When you are nullified, the what overtakes the who. You are complimented based on what you are rather than who, right? So the idea is to have you forget yourself, to draw you out, to make you behave in a certain way, which the person that is complimenting you or love bombing you or being a contrarian mirrors. So they mirror the stereotype of who you are in certain ways. They mirror that so that they can feel at sync with you, at one with you. And once they do that, they'll switch something up. So for example, right? No, actually that's the vilification stage, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it's all about aligning with who you are to make you feel part of the whole. No, it's all about merging with what you are so that you can feel part of the whole. Who you are is an individual thing, but what you are is part of a collective. If you feel validated as part of a collective, then that is what your narcissistic enemies are going for. They're going for either validating or being contrarian to everything that you are, so that they can create a strong enough emotion in you to infiltrate you, to merge with you. Because in order for them to destroy you, they have to know how to empathize with you. They can't destroy you without that. That's why so many perps have failed in destroying us, because they can't empathize with us. The only thing they can do is rely on brute force. They don't have shit else going for them, because they cannot empathize with us. That's why so many of us are still standing. They cannot empathize. It's something that they cannot do and refuse to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they cannot empathize with us. They have no respect for us. So how are they going to understand us clearly enough to be able to beat us? So the second part, Nullify, is about love bombing the crap out of what you are. It's about love bombing your id. It's about love bombing the basic parts of yourself that need to survive. That's what the second part is about. Because from there, they can merge with you. They can link with you. They can join with you. They can have a window into you so that they can change something. And that's where the vilification comes in. Now, I think I've explained before about an LLP technique. And you'll see this in street theatre where they copy you. There is a reason why they copy the way you dress, copy your gestures, copy your movements. There's a reason why they do that. It's so that they can influence you by merging with you. That's where the vilification process comes in. What happens is that they villainize who you are. They villainize who you are. So we've got identifying what a person is. That's the identification process. We've got the nullification, which is merging with what we are whilst finding out who we are, using that to find out who we are. And then we've got the third stage, which is villainizing who we are and bringing it back to the original point, bringing it back to the identification process, meaning they will villainize who you are and attach that to what you are. So the process comes full circle, right? With the vilification process, what happens is that you've got people who copy your movements, copy what you do, copy everything about you, right? And then they change something. I'll give you an example. If I'm walking down the street, somebody is going to imitate, is going to be like just a few feet in front of me, imitating what I do. So they're going to imitate my walk. They're going to imitate everything that I do. And then they're going to make sure that they fall over, not enough to hit the floor, but they're going to make sure that they trip over something. Just so. Do you understand what I mean? Just before they hit the ground. If I have enough empathy for what I'm seeing in front of me, or if I'm weak-willed enough, then I will actually fall. So they will mirror my body movements, and then just when they are about to fall, they stop themselves, but I end up falling. That's exactly what a lot of these gang stalkers do. They mirror your behavior and then change something. And then they pull themselves back before they influence you to go all the way with what you're doing. That is basically gang stalking in a fucking nutshell. So the identification process, Fabian Deacon 38, and then you've got the nullification process, appealing to the id of this person who fits these demographics, whilst identifying how she responds to those demographics. That's the who. And then with the vilification process, you vilify who I am, having copied me, having copied everything that I'm doing, and then you change something. In doing so, you villainize who I am, and then you come back full circle to attach it to what I am. So there's a 3-step process to this. Now with the vilification thing, let me get back to how people are getting poorer and people are at each other's throats and crime is going up and all the rest of it. Let me get back to that. Because there's a very important ingredient to the vilification process. It's not just mirroring what you are and then villainizing who you are. That's not just it. What it is about inflating other people's sense of superiority over you. I don't care who you are. Never underestimate a person's need to feel better than someone else. And never underestimate its ability to get in the way of your own success, needing to feel better than someone else. Lack of humility. The world is run by it. So not only are you vilifying who this person is and bringing that right back around to what they are, not only are you mimicking them to the point where you change something right at the end so that they'll go all the way and you'll be the one left there looking relatively sane. That's what reactive abuse is about, by the way. Not only are you doing that, but what you're doing is you're then using that platform to make other people feel better than the person that you're attacking, that the person that you've targeted. You're making other people feel better than that person. So this isn't just about you as a perp feeling better than the person you're attacking. You're encouraging everyone else to feel better than the person you're attacking. So what you'll do is you'll aggrandize the people that you want to manipulate, and you will attack the target. Say you are better than the target. You're not as crazy as this person. That person's a nonce. A lot of TRs get accused of paedophilia. It's disgusting. So that person's a nonce. That person's mad. That person's a drug addict. That person's like this, that, and the third. You're better than them. That's how flying monkeys are created. It's through attacking the who of the target and then making out like that thing that you're attacking is a fundamental part of their character. Do you understand what I mean? And then you make the people around you feel better than the person that you're attacking. That's how they get you. And that's how we end up in the situations that we constantly end up in. Our whole society is run on all of us feeling better than one another in some way, or posturing that we are better than one another in some way. Without that, we don't have the poverty that we're seeing in the world. Without that, we don't have the injustice, we don't have the wars, we don't have any of that, unless there's a superiority complex that is taking the money out of our pockets and bleeding us dry. Us feeling better than the people that we're attacking is important to the vilification process. And it's important in maintaining the strong hierarchies that make up the society that we're living in now. And it's a very important part of gang stalking. Somebody's got to be better than someone else. And as a TI, everything about you is ultimately designed to look worse than the people attacking you or the people co-signing the attackers. I've always said that a society is I've always said that a society is only as strong as its treatment of the vulnerable. And I say that for a reason. Because if you've got all these people feeling better than one another, stepping over each other to feel better than one another, and again, this is something that nobody is immune from. If you've got this society where everybody thinks that they're better than one another, it means evil always wins and good people don't trust each other. Or less bad people don't trust each other. Which leads to targeting and gang stalking and Zong thriving. That's the point. That's why we're in the position that we're in. It's playing on a superiority complex. It's like Lyndon B. Johnson said about white racists. You convince somebody that they're better than someone else, they will give you the money out of their own pocket. You don't even need to steal from them. They'll say, here, take my money here. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Everywhere people always need to feel better than someone else. And if you think you're immune, you're naive. Nobody is immune. TI is included. It's everywhere in the TI community. I see it all the time. Christian TIs acting like they're better than non-Christians. Cisgendered TIs acting like they're better than trans people. Straight TIs acting like they're better than queer TIs. I see it all the time. When black TIs talk about our oppression, white and brown TIs want to tell us to get over it. I see it all the time. That superiority complex. It's what keeps us in poverty. It's what keeps us in destructive class systems. And it's what helps gang stalking to thrive. But the most important element is the second part. It's the nullification part. It's the merging with somebody else's id so that you can change something fundamentally from a subconscious level. It's the second part. It's the nullification part. And that's exactly what gang stalkers are trying to achieve. Not even just through street theatre, not even just through harassment, but also through neuro-nanotechnology. And through long-range acoustic devices and through directed energy weaponry. They're trying to merge with you. They're trying to merge with what you're doing so that they're trying to merge with your thoughts, merge with your thought patterns, merge with, your frequency so that they can turn around and manipulate it. That second part is a fundamental principle of gang stalking. They do it with everything. And again, it's not just street theater. It's not just like, it's not street theater. It's not just street theater, and it's not just the harassment, like I said before. Do you remember when I said to you that there are long-range acoustic devices that are picking up on your brain frequencies? There are machines that pick up on your brain frequencies and then mirror your brain frequencies back to you so that they can change something at the last minute. That's done with street theater. That's done with the harassment. That's done with the brain waves. That's done with the nanotechnology. That's done with everything. It's a building block. It's a foundation of business. It's a foundation of literally everything. Fuse with your id through a special tailor-made way of doing it. Fuse with your id and then change something so that they can manipulate you into doing something that you otherwise wouldn't have thought of. The second part, that nullify part, that's the most important part of this whole thing. That's how superiority complexes are created. Through manipulation of the id. Through merging and manipulating the id. That's how it's created. So, yeah. It's a very short version of the videos that I created, but that's essentially what it comes down to. The first part is identifying what you are, not who you are, what you are. The second part is merging with your id on a physical level whilst identifying your responses to what you are, which is your personality. And then the vilification part is vilifying your personality, mimicking the worst parts of your personality, and then changing something. And then bringing it back full circle to number one. And again, like I said before, this is not just done physically by perpetrators. It's also done artificially by AI, and it's also done via electronic torture. That's why everything that's been happening has been happening. I'll give you an example in my own life right now. I've been playing loud music. So what have they been doing? They've been playing loud music. For the last few days, I've been extremely quiet in my flat. I've been really, really quiet. So what have they been doing? They've been really, really quiet. I've been wearing certain colors. I've been wearing blacks and blues and all that kind of shit. So what have my perps been doing as soon as I walk out the house? Wearing blacks and blues. Come on now, man. Come on now. If I sing, they got to go out of their way to sing. And it's not just these people, it's every perp neighbor I've ever dealt with. If I sing, they got to sing at a really inconvenient time when they know I'm sleeping. Really think about everything that I've said tonight. Really think about everything that I've said tonight. Because that's how you're manipulated. That's how they want to essentially come in and hack your soul. That's what this is about. It's about changing the fundamental nature of your soul and your spirit so that they can control what you do. But the way in which they do it, they want to make sure that you feel like you have a choice in the matter. That's how they want to play it. That's how the powers that be, these alchemical societies and all the scientists and politicians and entertainers associated with them, that's how they want to play it. They want you to be in a position where you are completely controlled and you feel like it is your call the whole time. That's why they merge with you. Pay attention to the World's End pub, the World's End. We don't take over, we merge. They merge first and then change something. They merge and then they change something. That's the fundamental principle of psychological warfare. You don't just attack, you merge. You can only most efficiently attack when you merge with that thing that you're trying to attack. That's also why the perps have to get to know you. That's why they have to get to know you. That's why they have to talk to you. That's why they have to, you know, so that they can figure out how to mirror you and figure out how to destroy you from there. And the thing is, I'm a very intelligent woman. I can tell who's who. And people think I don't know. People think I can't tell who's who. I'm always vague, almost always vague with the people that I think are gang stalking me. I want them to guess whether or not I know what they're doing now. I don't go up to their face and tell them anymore. I want them to be unsure. I want them to be unsure. I want a lack of sure footing when it comes to them. I don't reveal everything because I know they're trying to merge with me to do everything that I described. And when it comes to these people, they've been trying to do the same thing from a distance. I won't talk to them. I'm not going to talk to them. So they have to find some other way of imitating my behavior than changing something. In this case, they imitate my behavior, and then the next time I do something that has nothing to do with them, they record it, try to make out like I'm antagonizing them. Merge and then change something. Fundamental. And as for that third part, vilification, never underestimate a human being's need to feel better than someone else. We live in a society of rampant insecurity. Rampant. And appealing to that superiority complex is essential to marketing. It's even essential to forming groups. So, like I said, when I look around me at what's been happening to this country and what, like, gang stalking facilitated all of that. It might have even caused it. All because people needed to feel like they were better than someone else. Not realizing how much responsibility it actually is to fulfill everything that this society tells you to. When you fulfill everything that this society tells you to, you're rewarded with more responsibility. Maybe a handful of goodies and a Happy Meal. You're just rewarded with more work. That's all you're rewarded with. And yet people are jealous of that. So they create superiority complexes to conceal their jealousy or conceal their resentment. Mental health, race, gender, never underestimate. I'm going to repeat that until it sinks in. Never underestimate how somebody feeling better than someone else is integral to how our society works. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. So I don't know how long this video was, but I'm going to upload it and we're going to find out. Okay, so if you've made it to the end, my fellow TIs, tell me how you guys are doing. It's been a while since I asked. And yeah, I will update you with more when I know more. My Anuradha reading, in full moon Anuradha reading is up. I'm going to be doing the last quarter next week. So stay tuned for that. And until then, peace and blessings. I love you guys so much. Bye bye, my darlings. Hang on. I'm waiting for this bar right here to remove itself. There we go. Bye.